Hey guys, welcome to Sled Talk. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I would like to take a second of your time and introduce this season's title sponsor is Bikeman Performance. So they've decided to jump on board and help push the podcast. And if you're unaware, Bikeman is the elite level when it comes to aftermarket performance parts on your sled. So be sure to check out their site, link in the description. And without further ado, let's jump into the show.
Let the band play.
100K on the Protect, living life with no regrets. I can't designer when I get dressed. Summertime on winter fresh. I put her legs behind her head. Night she gone to bed. Bye. Every day it's a new test. I just keep chasing these checks. Living life with no regrets. Living life with no regrets. Living life with no regrets. Living life with no regrets.
Sled Talk listeners, welcome back to the next episode. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We are currently sitting in Rigby, Idaho at Klim headquarters. And we have returning podcast guest Kobe Doherty with us and new guest Dustin Pancheri. Welcome on to the show, man. Yeah, glad you're here.
It's fun.
Heck yeah. So we just got done doing like a almost 3-hour tour of
the world's longest tour.
Hell no, it was worth it. Absolutely.
That's probably the longest one I've given. Though.
Really?
Close, yeah.
Yeah. No, that was pretty exciting. Kobe, what were your thoughts on the tour?
World's coolest tour.
There you go.
Longest,
all right, you guys know how to
coolest
make a guy feel good.
Hey, you did good.
Learned a ton.
A lot better than I could have done. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, trying to make techie stuff interesting.
Well, you definitely knew every elbow and corner of this place, and you explained it pretty well, I thought.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Glad you guys liked it.
Yeah, it was really cool.
100%.
Informational, obviously, as well, as I'm sure we'll get into some of the stuff we learned. But
yeah, so let's start off, Dustin. For anybody that doesn't know who you are, you're quite a legend in the snowmobile industry.
I don't know.
Let's just kick it over to you and give the listeners and viewers a little bit of an introduction to who you are.
Yeah. Well, I'm a motorhead, is what I am.
Hell yeah.
I'm just kind of a redneck motorhead. I've been in this industry my entire life, since I was 15 years old. My dad raced motocross. Used to watch him riding around the field on his old CZ, wheeling all the way across the field. Mm-hmm. And I just remember thinking, one of my earliest memories, like, man, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I want to do that so bad, right? Yeah. And I don't know, just from then on, like, all I cared about was power sports. Mm-hmm. Dirt bikes, snowmobiles. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And kind of a geeky thing. And I don't. My wife knows this because we dated in high school. But my dad would get these dirt bike subscriptions, Dirt Bike Magazine, Dirt Rider Magazine, and I would take out of the magazine. I would take every full page photo. And like put it on my wall. Yeah. Until a point, like I'd done it for so long that my entire room, ceiling, like floor to ceiling, including the entire ceiling, was just pictures.
Really?
Like you couldn't see the wallpaper. You couldn't see anything.
I did the same thing out of the motorsport ones, the full ones you could. I think unfortunately mine usually had the backside though, and that was what the girls standing. Those were in my room, but yeah.
Well, I'd go to the local dealer and beg him for like posters, and so I had like the '93 Yamaha full lineup, like the SX, Exciter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was so in love with that stuff. Like my dream was like all I cared about when I was a kid was just somehow getting into the power sports industry,
Mm-hmm.
And like all kids do, I guess. I dreamed of being the guy in the photo. Like I so bad wanted to be that test rider.
Okay.
That was my ultimate career dream.
Yeah.
And in my mind, like I was like, it sucks that it'll never happen.
Yeah.
Like, our family doesn't have a lot of money or whatever, and my dad's not in the industry or whatever. And so I just, in my mind, I'm like, this is the ultimate fairy tale dream. It's just too bad it can't really happen to me.
Really? Okay.
And, but for some reason, and I don't know why, like anytime I got an opportunity to have anything to do with power sports, I just did it. I didn't even think about it. I just did it,
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 15, the local Honda shop, I'd go in there and kind of drool over bikes, and I wanted to work there so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I begged the guy to hire me. Yeah, I don't really need you. And I worked on the farm a little here and there, and I did that several times, and finally I'm just like, look, Mike, just put me to work. You don't have to pay me. I'll just let me do something. Let me wash your bike, anything, And I figured out that he rode on Saturday and Sunday, and Monday he always came and had somebody wash his bike. So I said, I'll wash your bike. So I timed it. I was there on Monday, and he's like, okay, fine, bike's out back, go wash it. So I did. I made it. It was the cleanest I've ever made any bike ever.
Of course, yeah.
I was determined to show him that I was going to do a good job, right? So I did that, and then, still didn't have a job. And so next Monday I showed back up. Hey, I'll wash your bike. And it's okay, bike's out back, So after 3 weeks of doing that, he said, well, be here tomorrow at 8 a.m. And I got a job being a laborer, a parts guy or whatever at the Honda shop. So that was my first power sports gig.
Okay.
And then fast forward a little bit in the winter, my dad was buddies with the local speed shop owner, Starting Line Products, the founder at Jim Noble. And he got me a job there. He got me the job. I didn't do anything. He's just like, hey, my buddy owns this shop. Go show up, talk to this guy. He'll give you a job. So I showed up. Jerry Matthews was the parts manager at the time. I talked to him, and same thing. Fall, gave me a job counting parts. Doing inventory or whatever, just labor stuff.
Yep.
So I worked at the Honda shop in the summer, worked at SLP in the winter, and did that for a while until I got a full-time job at SLP. Worked there into college.
How old were you when you first started at SLP?
I think I was either 15 or 16. I can't remember.
Wow.
We could legally work at 15, and I remember having a job at 15, but I can't remember exactly when I started at SLP.
It's a pretty young age starting with a motorsport company,
Well, I mean, you can train a monkey to count parts, kind of, right? So,
Yeah.
before, do whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I was willing to do whatever. I just wanted to have a job in the industry. So I had my dad, he'd bought me a dirt bike early on. Kind of one of those things where it didn't run. He's like, if you can make it run, you can have it.
Got it.
And he was pretty mechanical. He'd been to school to be a diesel mechanic and taught me some stuff. And that was kind of how I started learning to work on stuff. We had a couple old snowmobiles, and we had to make them run if we wanted to. Neighbor gave them to us or whatever. A couple old snow jets. We had a 338 and a 244 snow jet, if I remember right. Max speed was like 28 miles an hour or something on the thing.
Yeah.
But I was, 14 or 15 or whatever, and didn't care. I just wanted to ride a snowmobile. And so Dad helped us get them running. And those old blue snow jets, we had those, I think, until I was early teenager or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if I wanted to ride, Dad, he tried to get us stuff to ride, and I don't think they didn't have a ton of money, but he still made an effort to get us something. And we learned how to work on them and keep them running, and until I earned enough money to buy my own bike. And then eventually I earned enough money to buy my own sled. And when I was an adult, I probably should have been doing adult things, but I snow checked sleds instead. Bought a 98 700 when I was 20.
Oh,
had
man.
no business doing it. No money, but I'm snow checking or buying a sled.
It was worth it though, yeah?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yep. So, I just worked at SLP until I got into college, and then I left for a bit. And had a short stint at Home Depot and decided I didn't like retail at all.
What were you going to college for?
Electronics.
Okay.
And I didn't actually end up finishing it because it was boring as all get out. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Go to college around here, or did you?
Yep. It was called Rick's College. It's now BYUI. And in hindsight, I wish I'd have just stuck it out.
Yeah.
Electronics is a super valuable skill.
Yeah.
And I did learn some stuff, but I didn't complete it. Then I SLP talked to them. They wanted a sales guy, and so I ended up going back to SLP. I was only gone for a year or two.
Okay.
Got into sales there, and my career there was 18 total from when I was 18 years. Those guys are amazing. Super cool company. Super innovative.
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know what SLP is, give a breakdown of what they do and what the business is about.
It stands for Starting Line Products. Based in Idaho Falls. They just hit 50 years this last year.
Wow. Okay.
So Jim Noble was the founder. He was an old racer. Started at racing on just money that he'd earned from racing. He was just a very, very talented, very smart individual. Thought outside the box. Learned how to do porting and engines and pipes and build cranks and head design and used that, to beat the factory boys. I mean, he was racing at a professional level. He'd show up on just a little private team in the back of the pickup and beat the factory guys.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I worked at SLP when I was younger, I'd have his old competitors call in to like buy parts. Mm-hmm. And they'd be like, yeah, I used to race against Jim. He's like, if Jim was there, we knew we were racing for second. Yeah. Like that was his reputation.
Got it.
And it was the same no matter who I talked to.
Really?
They'd be like, yeah, we'd race, we'd go to the bar and hang out at night and play pool, and he'd be working out of the back of his pickup trying some new part that he made out of a Pepsi can, out of a beer can, like reed stuffers or, flow dividers, or he'd be playing with heads or porting, right there in the parking lot with a file.
Really?
And they always told me the same thing. If Jim showed up, we were racing for second. Like,
that's a serious statement.
We weren't going to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty fortunate because my dad was buddies with him. And, I didn't get to know him that great. I got to spend some time around him and a little bit of a mentor, and he taught my dad some stuff and taught me some stuff. But he passed all that knowledge on to the powers that be. Alan Roberts became the head engineer, head R&D, and he's, again, just like Jim, super, super intelligent, thinks outside the box. In my opinion, he is one of the best two-stroke tuners in the world.
Got it. Okay.
He's factories have come to him to help him solve problems, develop things, build pipes, exhaust systems. He still builds exhaust systems that nobody else can really understand how or copy. He's just a very, very intelligent guy. So those guys I really enjoyed my time there. I learned a ton. Alan was a big mentor. Jerry was a big mentor. Jim was a mentor. So I'm just fortunate that they taught a young punk kid who, thought he knew everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they were patient with me and let me try things. And eventually I worked into where I was helping them, testing and playing, go to shows and work on the snow and try clutching. And man, I loved that. I loved making horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
Making stuff go fast is fun.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
You go out and you try something and it works, and you got your baseline sled and you're trying stuff, and you come back and you're like, that's way faster. I mean, there's a personal reward there.
Oh, totally.
And then to have a customer call you and be like, hey, I set it up the way you told me and it rips and I beat my buddy, and I don't know, that's, in some regards, that's better than a paycheck, like to a point. Like,
sure.
It's just really rewarding.
Yeah.
So I loved that. I don't get to do that near as much, and I miss it.
About how long were you there before you left?
So I left in 13.
Okay.
Came here in 13 at Klim. Super tough decision.
Yeah.
Because those guys they're just so good to me.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I just felt like I needed to learn some different skills and kind of try something different. It had nothing to do with them. It was everything about me.
Yeah, sure.
It was like, kind of telling the girlfriend, it's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, those guys really never gave me a reason to leave. Other than I wanted to try a little bit of a different business.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the point where I needed a little bit of a different challenge. And so the opportunity came at Klim. I was friends. I'd worked with these guys forever. We all travel around on the same show circuit, help each other clean up booths and things, go to dinner together, travel together. I got to be really good friends with John. Justin and I got to be friends. We rode dirt bikes in Moab together.
Mm-hmm.
And through just some conversations, Justin, he gave me a hard time because he's like, well, why don't you just come work for us? And I loved my job at SLP. I didn't really want to make a change. And so it took a while, of him kind of giving me a bit of an invitation, giving me a hard time before I really started to think, maybe it's time to push the back, kind of expand and just see what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great decision. I mean, I missed some of my tasks that I had at SLP, but we're tight. Like Jerry and I are probably best friends now that we've been ever were before.
Yeah.
And Alan, I mean, we talk all the time, multiple times a week, and we're both editors. We help test for Snowtech magazine, so we get to do a lot of cool stuff there together. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go into that a little bit.
Yeah. Snowtech. So that's been a really rewarding opportunity for sure. So Jerry actually got me that gig when I was working at SLP. They wanted a tall guy that could ride short tracks and long tracks. And Jerry says, hey, I got a guy that works with me, and we can bring him on and give him, see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they like the way the tall guys look in the photos and things like that. And so they invited me to come to a photo shoot. I'd been helping with photo shoots already at SLP, and I actually helped with Klim in the early days. So I went to a photo shoot, and we just hit it off. Worked out. And I had a technical knowledge of snowmobiles. They're a very technical magazine, obviously.
Right.
So I could communicate those technical details, which I think it takes some experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about sleds all day long, but in order to explain handling characteristics
right.
and functions and things like that, I think it takes maybe a bit of a skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd helped me develop that at SLP. And so I just kept going back and doing photo shoots with him, and it turned into actually testing sleds. And then Jerry and I kind of became the mountain staff.
Okay.
So the media sleds, we had the founder of the magazine, or I should say the operator of the magazine, Kevin Belkey, and those guys were based in Alexandria, Minnesota. They took care of all the short track kind of crossover stuff, and Jerry and I took care of all the mountain stuff.
Got it.
We would get together one time a year at Snow Shoot and test together and do photos together, but for the most part, the OEMs would send all the mountain sleds to Jerry and I, and we would have anywhere between 3 and 5 or 6 sleds a season.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd put as many miles on them as we could all year and take notes and then write long-term test articles on them. And then we'd get prototypes late spring of next year's model, and we'd try to hurry and do quick articles on those. Because the OEMs want people to snow check.
Yeah.
They'd give them to us early or let us write them early so we could inform, be a third-party information center to consumers and help them decide what they wanted to snow check, right? So, last year we had a Lynx shredder prototype, and we put a lot of miles on that. We had it for, probably not quite 2 months, 2.5 months.
Okay.
So yeah, Jerry and I we've had really good experiences there. Gotten to know all the OEM, all the OEM marketing teams, the engineering teams at Polaris, Skidoo, Cat, Yamaha. Lots of really interesting relationships, and we've learned a lot. Kind of gotten to see some of the developments of projects and machines and things that the general public doesn't necessarily get to see.
Right.
Talk directly to the engineers and what struggles they may have had, and get some inside information. So that's a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet.
We have a ton of fun doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, been a really fun career. Still, been at Klim for a little over 9 years now, full time. I helped him before that, just kind of playing around, but now it's actually kind of turned into a job. Yeah. So kind of go back to when you were getting introduced and they brought you over. What was kind of one of the first? What did you originally first start when you took the job with Klim? What were you originally first starting? What were you doing? So they offered me a job in development.
Okay.
Where I had a little bit of a background doing research and development at SLP. That wasn't my core job, but I had some knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting, but it seemed like the developers spent a lot of times, doing emails with factories, kind of in a cubby or your cubicle or whatever.
Yeah.
And I really was more in search of something where I could be more active with consumers and dealers and, out and about a little bit. And so I consider it, but at the end of the day, something didn't really feel right about it.
Understood. Yep.
And Justin kind of kept giving me a little bit of a hard time. Hey, you need to come over and work. And so then another position opened up. We actually were on a photo shoot, and one of the Klim guy I was with at the time, Sid, we were just kind of in a hotel room at night, and he's like, you really ought to go apply for this job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hesitant to work. Justin and I were friends. John and I were friends. I was kind of hesitant to work for friends.
Yeah.
But Polaris had just bought the company, had bought Klim from Justin. And so that changed the dynamic a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of made a little more sense, I think. And I had decided I was kind of looking to challenge myself in a different way. So I went and talked to the sales manager and went through an interview, and I the job that they had offered me was the regional sales manager for the Mountain West Territory.
Okay.
And I knew a lot of the dealers already from being at SLP.
Right.
So that made
Kinda
sense.
fit,
Yeah, because I didn't have to learn a bunch of new relationships necessary.
Yep.
So I did that for a while, and then we had some restructuring within the company. The territories changed around. I ended up being the sales manager over the South Territory, which we didn't have much of a dealer network there, so we needed to build that up.
Mm.
A lot of our product was geared more towards mountain, more variety of weather on the motorcycle side. So South, we just didn't have much product.
Yeah.
So I was there for 4 or 5 years on that. We opened up some new dealers and started to expand our product line to be more specific that would work better for the southern riding areas and motorcycle belt.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. It was a challenge. But I've still kind of always at core been a snowmobile guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really wanted to get back more involved with the snowmobile side of things. So and then they had a position open. They decided that we needed to do more training with dealers.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a technical background, and so I became the corporate trainer for about a year and a half.
Training as in teaching and training the dealers on the
Educating
products?
dealers on products and how to sell the product.
Okay.
So we created a curriculum. We used an online platform. Did that for about, it was like a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then a position came up in the marketing department for the athlete manager.
Okay.
And that was, honestly, that was a position I'd always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Even from the day I started at Klim. And so I applied for it, but basically they told me to apply for it.
Yeah, gotcha.
Kind of. And they just gave it to, right. It was kind of look, we got to put this out there, but this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So started on that, and I've been in this position, basically the same position ever since. I guess technically my title is Senior Associate Marketing Manager.
Okay.
And that entails everything on the snow side.
Got it.
Whether it's shows or events or special projects or athletes, contracts, relationships, it all falls under that.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, it's the best job in the company.
Yeah.
I'm pretty fortunate. I get to meet, work with a lot of cool people, some really successful athletes. In this industry, it's not like there's really any like cocky, super. I mean, they're all down to earth.
Yeah.
To be around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty fortunate there, and that's been a learning experience in itself. These guys are all pretty successful in their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
A lot to learn from them as well, and so just maintaining those relationships. We have to plan out our marketing strategies for the season. We have, every year we have a theme, on what we're going to kind of focus on, and then we plan shows and events, and we'll do special projects. Like the Locksaw 5 was kind of a special project.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I do on a daily, from day to day.
Gotcha.
And then we're also heavily involved in the Avalanche Alliance. We kind of created that. And that's been a big thing for us. That's pretty important to us.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll pick into that one.
Yeah, we can talk about that a little later. But
Yeah.
but my job involves that quite a bit as well.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. You said the Locksaw 5. So for anybody that didn't see you guys come out with that, talk a little bit about what it is, and then we'll talk a little bit on the development and what went into it and how long it took and all that kind of stuff. So inform the listeners and viewers what the Locksaw 5 is.
So the Locksaw 5 was a limited edition, limited production. We only made 300 of them. It's a Locksaw chassis with a new fabric called Vectron.
Mm.
It's a pretty revolutionary fabric from a power sports perspective, because it's way stronger than any other fabric that we've had, but it's also significantly lighter.
Yep.
So you'll hear us say like our motto is like lighter, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
If we can make it lighter, make it faster, make it stronger, whatever, make it more comfortable. Like that's always the goal, right?
Sure. That's the push. Yep.
Well, the Vectron had two big, it checked two of those big boxes. It's lighter and it's stronger. And it's a softer fabric, so it's also more comfortable. It's not quite as boardy as the Locksaw fabric. So it's
okay. Yeah.
it's a little bit expensive, but it's from a performance standpoint, it's exactly what we always look for. Like we want to make it better in these areas, and that's what we were able to do with it. So first go around, we were really the limited edition thing. We did it for two reasons. One, because we weren't able. I mean, it was early enough. We weren't able to go into like a mass production of a big, piece.
Yeah.
And then doing kind of a Black Friday limited edition thing's pretty cool. You look at some of the models out there in other businesses, like for the Ferrari model or things like that, where everything's limited edition. Everything's very unique. And it's a cool opportunity to be able to say, yeah, I drove that car, I had that car.
For sure.
So the Locksaw 5 was kind of that was a little bit of the vision, like make it a staple piece, kind of that concept vehicle. And pretty much like on Black Friday, we pretty much had most of them sold.
Yeah.
So they have a serial number down the sleeve on the left-hand side, one of 300.
Yep.
And so it's actually really funny because when Brant was racing, his number was 211.
Yeah, I know what you're about to talk about with the video with Dan.
Dan Adams and I are in Fargo, North Dakota, and I hadn't been able to get Dan one. And the dealer had one there, and it happened to be 211.
The chances.
So I told the dealer, I'm like, I will send you another one. So Dan gets it.
Yeah.
And we'd make a little video like, hey, Brant, looky what I got.
Yeah.
You can't have it,
It's mine now.
And then he didn't post it or anything, and he waited until like last week.
Yeah.
And then Dan and Matt posted it.
Yeah, I saw it. It was pretty funny.
Chris didn't say much, so I'm just...
I bet not.
No.
He didn't say much.
I
He
bet
didn't
not.
say much. But inside, I think he was like, you dirty little...
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I bet.
I should ask him about it, but...
Yeah.
It was kind of a funny little...
So with that limited edition coming out, are you guys gonna start a line of that, or probably keep it up with the limited edition per year?
Expand into other
Maybe
colors and
snow check for Klim now.
We haven't really made
Snow
it.
check for Klim.
Yeah, snow check your gear.
Yeah, snow check my mono.
That's actually been talked about. We've
Yeah.
actually talked about, yeah.
Have like some special colors, that you can only get snow check.
I mean, I
Like
would
you're saying, to be another thing, limited possibly.
Yeah.
So moving forward, this project went well enough. It sounds like we are going to do something similar in the future. We haven't decided exactly what it's going to be yet, but we are working on some additional pieces that will probably do limited edition colorways.
Sure.
But nothing's set in stone right now. But as far as like the Locksaw, so that fabric, it will eventually get worked into other pieces.
I was just going to ask, you going to make
really
bibs and
curious about
jackets and
that.
stuff out of that?
Yeah, and that's also
future.
something we haven't really finalized, just with the scope of like how the manufacturing world is right now and everything. But the fabric is the direction we are headed. I mean, anytime we get something performance-wise that does that good, like we're going to incorporate that into more pieces.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where we go with it. But I'm sure we may come out with a new version of the Locksaw that has some of that fabric, or we'll do something.
Sure.
I don't exactly know what it's going to be yet.
Sure. And so the gentleman that we met, is his name Evan?
Evan.
Okay, so
Materials.
Yep. Yeah, so talk a little bit about his job and kind of like what went into producing that fabric specifically, and the time frame too.
Evan's, well, first off, I've known Evan for a long time. Before I worked here, we rode together. The cool thing about Evan, and a lot of people here, not just Evan, is the dude can shred on a sled, and he's an animal on a bike. So we've got this guy up there that's in charge of developing new materials, and he knows exactly what they need to do.
Yep.
I mean, the dude, he's raced Erzberg.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you know anything about off-road motorcycle races, Erzberg's like the granddaddy kind of, right? One of the toughest races in the world. So he went over and did that and did quite well. Qualified and finished in the top 100. So he's basically one of the top 100 in the world, essentially.
Yeah.
With no practice, like just showing up as an Idaho boy, like redneck, we ride out here in the hills. Hey, let's go do a race. Oh, I guess I did pretty good.
Wow.
Okay. So he's pretty talented that way, and that I feel like that really transfers over into helping us with the product. And so his job is to either find, source, or develop fabrics that are going to help us meet goals for products. So if we have a product, we're like, hey, there's a niche here, or there's a fit, we call it fit for use, like something that we want to specifically perform better here, then he either needs to source it, help develop it, find it, like we got to figure out how to meet that goal. So he's really heavily onto the the testing side of things. You know, okay, let's put this fabric in a bib and have somebody go test it and see if we can break it. So
Yeah.
rip it. So him, he's got a team up there, a couple of people that do that. But then he's also got Mason Rutledge, who's a professional hill climber,
Yep.
skidoo athlete.
Yep.
That helps with some validation stuff there as well. We have a whole bunch of different bibs and jackets built. I think last year we did, don't quote me on this, but it seems like we had like as many as 80.
Wow. Okay.
And they'll put like one fabric in one leg and one in the other.
Sure.
And we don't tell them what it is.
Yeah.
We're just like, go break it, right? And so Mason has the charts of everybody who's got what, and then there's like, they give them a Sharpie marker, and they have to make a mark every time they wear it. So
Okay.
they have to have so many hours and so many days, days of riding in it.
Yeah.
And then they send it back, and we cut it open and look at it and see how it held up. And then we have them give us a feedback form, like how breathable was it? How mobile was it? How waterproof was it? You know, like they have to tell us how they felt like each leg performed.
Sure.
So we do that with basically every material we can get our hands on. It's interesting, our goal is to always be like, to push the envelope, to have the best product, the best material, kind of be the leader in technology for apparel. Well, you can't do that if you're not testing pretty much everything.
Right.
You got to verify if what you're doing is better than what the other guy's doing. So even though we're heavily involved in gore, and I know we're going to kind of go into that a little bit later.
Yep.
Like we test a lot of stuff that's not gore. And I could name off a whole bunch of brands. I won't do that right now, but we've tested them. And the guy doesn't even know he's tested it. The person we put the pants on, the bibs on, he has no idea what's in each leg. One leg's a baseline leg, and the other one's a test leg.
Sure. And
it could be, a shoulder fabric or a Sympatex, even, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're testing it to see how it compares. And occasionally we find something that's like, hey, this performed better than we thought. Like, do we need to be looking at this?
Possible breakthrough or something.
Right. And so that's a big job. Evan heads all that up. He has to work with the factories to get all these prototypes built, one off, and then work with, Mason, and they send them out to, we have to stay on a schedule, and we need information fast, so we focus on guys who ride every day, and they're hard on equipment, and, to try to get that feedback, because we need to be able to react. So Evan does a really good job at that. He actually worked here some time ago as a developer as well. He developed off-road gear and snow gear. So he worked as a developer first. He left for a while, came back as this materials specialist. So, he's wore a lot of hats. Big asset to the company.
Yep.
So, there's lots of people that are big assets, but as far as Evan's concerned, like he brings a lot to the table.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. That fabric, he cut a little piece of it and then gave it to you, Kobe, to tear, and then he gave you a competitor's fabric, which I don't even know which competitor it was. I don't know what the fabric was or anything, but
said he wouldn't disclose it.
Yeah.
We don't play that game.
Yeah. But it was interesting to see, and even watching your reaction on your face, like you were beat red trying to pull that fabric apart, and
we were afraid you quit breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that was pretty crazy. That one definitely got me believing right there.
Yeah.
So that was Vectron.
Yeah,
that was the
Vectron.
From Alexa 5.
That stuff's gonna work.
Yeah.
And to make it fair, like you said, he cuts it down far enough to where you can grab, get a full handful and pull.
Yeah,
you still could.
Yeah, there was even a pre-existing cut, and it barely even.
It'll be in that video.
Oh yeah.
It'll be in the... It was, I don't know, it was just crazy. I'm still kind of mind blown over it.
Yeah.
That's a strong material for how light it was. There's strong materials out there, but they're bulky, they're thick. They're made out of, not paper thin. That was sheet paper thin right there.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So that material, this is where the nerdy kind of geeky stuff comes to play. And in fact, I had a guy tell me the other day, he's like, that's just marketing. Well, it is marketing, but it's true too. So Vectron, pound for pound, is stronger than steel.
Yep.
So think about that for a second. You think of a plate of steel and you're like, oh, it's not stronger than a plate of steel. But if you think pound for pound,
right?
You take a pound of steel, so pretty thin layer of steel, right? Versus a pound of Vectron. The Vectron is more tear resistant and stronger. It'll hold more weight.
That's wild.
Than steel.
Yeah.
So we've been able to take fabric technology, and by adjusting the type of thread and the way we weave it and how many thread counts there are and all these things to make those different, you put all that together and it makes something stronger than steel.
Yeah. Wow.
But yet it's soft and you can wear it.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it had the Gore on the backside of it too, didn't
And
it?
it's laminated with Gore-Tex, so it's waterproof and breathable.
Yep.
And has a lifetime warranty.
Yep.
So, I mean, you look back 20 years ago when we started this, and it's like we just wanted to stay dry. Yeah. Carhartts weren't getting it done.
Yeah.
Till now, and it's like we're wearing like basically super fabrics that, you know, are so strong that you can hit the pavement at 200 miles an hour and they won't.
We're giving NASA a run for their money.
Right? Some of this stuff is actually from NASA.
Yeah.
I
think he actually told you that was.
There's some parts in that. Yep.
Stuff,
Was that some of the road bike stuff or no?
The Vectron
that was the ceramic
fiber
stuff. That was different.
The Vectron fiber NASA used partially where it came from.
Yeah.
I don't know all the details on it. But
yeah, sure. Yeah. So I kind of probably already know the answer to this, but I just want to see what you are going to say. So since obviously that was kind of a work in progress for a few years, right? And now it's kind of out there and it's released. What's like the next best thing that you're working on right now?
You already got something. Well, it's like the OEMs. I mean, okay, so the Matrix chassis, Polaris started working on that in like 2013.
Yeah.
Or 12.
Yeah.
Right? So now we're like,
Which
the
is
Matrix
crazy
is so cool, they can't have anything better than this. They do.
Yeah.
We're not going to see it for 3 years.
Yeah, sure. Right.
But they've already got it, right? And it's the same for us, same for auto manufacturers.
Yep. Which is cool to think about too, because I mean, you just said it right there. Like, how could they come out with anything better or cooler than this? And then, you know, so you think about like the Vectron stuff. Like, how could you guys top that? But there's something in the works to top that.
So, I mean, not to get totally sideways, but the editor of Snowtech, and I can't remember who, it might have been one of our vintage editors, but they did an article on the development of the Rev chassis and sat down with some of the original engineers, and they talked about the very first years that the concept of the Rev chassis was like put together with like clay molds and things like that.
Yeah.
In like 1996 or 7.
Wow.
So the Rev came out in like 2001 as a snowcross chassis, and kind of the consumers could get it finally in like 2003. But they actually had the first Rev chassis. I can't remember exactly what the article, but it was like 96 or 97.
Sure. Yeah.
Started testing them in like 98. Took like MXZ chassis and put A-arms under them and like moved the steering, and like we're playing with all kinds of weird things, you know, before they finally got the actual final look of the Rev chassis.
Yeah.
That stuff's fascinating to me, to go back and talk to the people that were involved and when they actually first started working on it. So I'll be like at Snowshoot talking to an engineer, and like they've just released this new technology. Well, what he can't tell you is it's old news.
Yeah.
Like he's already on to the next. We were in 2019 when the 850 was this big deal, or for SKU 2017. Dude, they had turbos on the dyno.
Yeah.
And he can't tell me about it.
Yeah, sure.
And then you're like, and I'm like, you mean when we had that conversation? Yep, I knew. I just couldn't say anything to you. And you're like,
that's brutal.
So that's a pretty challenging thing.
Yeah.
If you're an engineer and you know stuff and you can't talk, because that's pretty serious stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Way serious.
Yeah, for sure.
And even in our industry, it's still pretty serious. I mean, we don't want to give our competitors any idea what the next thing is.
Yeah, no,
so
for sure.
We even like, you know, when we did the tour and we couldn't go up into R&D.
Yep.
It's just like, it's a blanket policy. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yep.
It'll eliminate any risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's a business.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so you're kind of you know, we talked a little bit about materials, and then you just mentioned R&D. Let's give kind of like a quick verbal overview of the tour, right? So like what all happens here in this huge building at headquarters in Klim, like kind of talk about the little different departments and you know, what all happens within this building
what
day
makes
to day.
The wheel turn?
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing, well, I don't know if it's funny, but unique. We're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, what's the population of Rigby? It's like 3,400 or something.
3,200 people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of restaurants and you
good restaurants though.
Streets, barbecue place is pretty good. Little
Yes,
Mike's,
it
little plug
was.
for Little Mike's. Yeah.
Little Mike's, you put that in there.
But when you talk to people, they're like, they're driving from Salt Lake to Yellowstone National Park. They have no idea they drove past Klim.
Right.
It's right off the highway.
Yeah.
And it's this giant white building, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're right off the highway. This big white building. Oh yeah, I saw that building. Well, that's us. Really?
Yeah.
What are you doing out here? They think you're in Salt Lake or some metropolitan area or whatever.
Yeah.
But, the founder, Justin Summer, like, it's a farming community, old-fashioned, hardworking, know all your neighbors, go to church, blah, blah, all that stuff. And it's part of the success of why we've, I think, been successful is because it's not an 8-to-5 job for anybody here.
Sure.
But, yeah, being just outside of Rigby, between Rigby and Idaho Falls, I want to say our building's 125,000, 150,000 square feet.
Yep.
So decent-sized building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're continuously adding on.
Yeah, we have to keep adding on. The warehouse keeps shrinking.
Yeah.
More product keeps showing up.
Yeah.
So, the departments, we've got the customer service department up front. We have the showroom, the customer service department that helps run. People can come in, try stuff on, learn about it, see it, feel it. Our goal is never to be a retail location, but we kept having people wanted to stop in and see what Klim's about.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a great dealer base who offers great customer service and educates the consumer and helps them, what to buy. We educate the dealers, and so we're doing it more of like kind of a nostalgia. Hey, I went to Klim, I saw the facility, I bought a shirt or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not really per se a true retail.
Right.
You can come here and buy something, but a dealer may have a better, like a better showroom or a bigger showroom.
Yeah, sure.
So we've got that customer service, the showroom, and then we have the sales and marketing side. Sales is really like the dealer relationships. In North America, we've got like 1,400 dealers or something.
Okay.
I think there's a board. Actually, when we're done, we can walk back and look at the board because it has it written on it. But worldwide, we have 3 warehouses, one in the Netherlands for Europe. That's our European warehouse.
Yeah.
We have one in Canada, in Vancouver. We have one here in Rigby. Actually, I lied to you, 4. We have
4
one in
of them.
Ohio.
Yep.
So that's our east warehouse. Just so we can cut down shipping times.
Yeah.
We did everything out of Rigby for a long time, but it's 5 days to Florida or 6 days. So Ohio puts us 2 days pretty much anywhere in the United States.
Yep.
So those warehouses, and then we have some distributors in other countries. We have Mexico. I think we have one in China and some Asia, and we have one in South America, one in Australia. Like we've got some, they buy the product and they warehouse it, but they're a distributor, right? So it's not our warehouse.
Any ideas of more of those going up to make the shipping a little bit more convenient, or do you guys pretty much got it dialed where you want it?
Well, I think the growth will determine that.
Yeah.
I would say.
I was
as
going to
we
say
continue to grow-
which looking at growth, yeah, it seems like it's doing pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, not to my knowledge, there's no major changes planned there, but if the distributors can continue to keep up with the volume, it doesn't necessarily give us a reason to make a change. But if the volume gets too high, then that would be a conversation. I don't know, but
Yeah.
And have they always thought about keeping HQ here?
That was actually kind of a concern.
like
Like when Polaris bought it, I thought
Wyoming,
crap,
Utah, or something.
They're going to move it to Minnesota,
Oh, man. Yeah,
But-
sure.
And I only say that nothing against Polaris, but that's tip of a corporate acquisition. That's pretty typical,
Yeah.
right? Like consolidate.
Yeah.
But Justin, when he did the deal, he was really smart about how they had all that set up, and Polaris has been, I think, smart enough to see that part of the uniqueness is being here.
Yeah.
So they've not really messed with any of that.
That's good.
It's been good. It might be, like if we were at a major shipping hub or something, maybe there'd be some cost savings, but what's the trade-off as far as like the employees we have and
Yeah.
Yeah, no
resources we
joke.
have here, so.
No joke.
I think it's part of where we are is part of the recipe. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little piece that you just touched on too is like the workers right here locally. I want to go into kind of like the culture and the leadership inside of Klim, and talking about how like back in the day, the every Thursday, one employee would make lunch for everybody. Like, yeah. So go into like the importance of what that all looks like with inside Klim, and how you feel that affects Klim as a whole.
Yeah. I think, I mean, not that I've worked at a bunch of other companies, so it's hard to tell, but looking, from my perspective here and then from the outside in, looking to other companies in the industry, there is something unique about like the family atmosphere here. And a lot of it's because of the way the leadership, Justin, set this up in the beginning. It's every Thursday they would do company lunch, and the employees made the lunch for the rest of the employees. So in the beginning, it was like 10 people.
Yeah.
10 people, right? Yeah. There was the barbecue sitting right over there. That's still the original barbecue.
Really? Okay.
Just a little shout out to Weber there. It hasn't broken yet. But it's like every Thursday we had, whether somebody just made something simple, burgers or pancakes or whatever, they would feed everybody in the company. And then we grew. Yeah. We're literally on the edge of the warehouse, so whatever noise they make in the warehouse is like coming into here.
Yeah. It's all good. Got to get the product out.
Right? We got a job to do. So we grew, and those lunches got bigger and bigger and bigger, and in the new building, they built a lunch room, that would hold 80, 90 people or whatever. And the joke was for a long time, like I always showed up for free lunch every Thursday. I was that guy. Yeah. Well, John and I would go to lunch all the time, and John would be like, well, hey, it's free lunch here. Just come up here and eat. And I'd be like, okay, whatever. We're not going to go to lunch. We'll just go there. Yeah. And then so pretty soon I was the freeloader or whatever. They didn't know John and I were having that conversation, so I was just showing up for lunch. So that was kind of the joke, that I didn't work here, but I was here. But then when I got hired, it was getting to the point where it's like, if you're going to feed 100 people, that's a big task for one employee. It's expensive. So they said, all right, it's not really fair, so we're just going to cater lunch. So they continued to have employee lunch every Thursday, and until we literally outgrew that room. We just couldn't fit everybody in the room. And then they finally quit doing it. But it was really cool because it's like you get all the employees together. Hey, how's Johnny? How's Rebecca? Whatever. How's the dog? I mean, your coworkers. Yeah. And if there's something wrong with a coworker, like you spend enough time with them, you can tell whether they're going to tell you or not, right?
Totally.
And it really did become this family atmosphere. And it just makes more sense. Like you care about who you're working with. And so ironically or interestingly enough, we just did a big expansion. And we added on to a big meeting room upstairs, which makes it so we can get all the employees in there now. So now we're going to go back to having lunches in there once a month as an entire company, and they're going to cater it.
Heck yeah.
We just got the email yesterday. They were bringing that back. And it's way cool. Yeah. Because there might be somebody upstairs I hardly ever see. But if we're all going to be up there for lunch, it's like get to know them a little bit.
Get the opportunity to see the business from all aspects of eyes. Yep.
And so I don't know. I'm sure there's other companies to do that, but I feel like that's one of the things that Justin really implemented as a culture was this family, teamwork atmosphere, and it makes you kind of want to like go that extra mile. Yeah. Not that we don't like have our own struggles and be like nothing ever goes, nothing's always perfect.
Yeah, life ain't perfect.
I just feel like.
When you came into Klim, how many of you were going to lunch?
I was 82nd, number 82 employee.
Number 82. Nice.
And there's how many now? You said 125 or something?
I think we're around 150 worldwide.
Okay.
Or 160. In the building here, there's like 120.
Okay.
So, and we talked.
So a good majority's here then.
Yeah.
Big majority.
And we talked earlier about like the big changes with COVID. Where we basically couldn't come to work for 2 years.
People still at home and stuff working.
There's some departments where they found they were more productive at home, and they could do their job at home.
Yeah.
And again, another credit to the leadership team. they recognize that each department had separate needs, and instead of just doing this blanket policy like, hey, everybody's got to come back to work on this day, it's like, no, you guys figure out what works best and do it. And if we need to evaluate it later, we'll evaluate it later.
Get it done.
So, yeah, there's still some people that spend some of their time at home, some time here. I'm one of those. I kind of go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I can get up at 7 in the morning and go in my office at home and shut the door, and nobody bugs me, and I can get a lot done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Where if we come here, there's distractions, and not that those aren't important, but
toys and conversations and
yeah, if a customer walks in the front door and wants to talk to me or something, I'm here. Versus if I'm at home and
grinding.
I love talking to those people, but sometimes you just got to put your head down and get the work done.
Or you have to do a tour for 3 hours and then a podcast for 3 more hours.
Take you to Little Mike's.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Those are the days we shoot for.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing this again next week.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, as soon as you guys, maybe we'll come on a Thursday next time for the company lunch.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, right?
Thursday.
That would be perfect.
That would.
Bring the sled. We'll do lunch on Thursday. We'll ride on Friday.
There you go.
Day.
That's a signed
Don't
deal.
tempt me with a good
Jeff,
time.
you're not getting out of that one. You have to come.
We'll take you to No Tell'em Creek.
There we go.
Yeah. That's a good
There
place.
we go. I like that.
That's a
Greg.
good place. So, Dustin, this is kind of like a common, I believe, a common question, but where do you see Klim in 5 years, and then where do you see yourself within Klim in the next 5 years? Like projects you want to work on or things that you want to evolve into or whatever it may be. Like, so 5 years for Klim, 5 years for you within Klim.
Not a common question. So let's start with Klim.
Yeah.
So we have what's called an LRP and an LRPP. So we have a long range plan and a long range product plan, and we'll plan out 5 years or whatever, 10 years. Like what do we feel like the products we're going to need to have to continue our growth? And I think with the current situation with the economy right now, there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
A lot of red flags, a lot of concerns. So for us, we're being very strategic about how we're going to handle that. And again, this is a credit back to our leadership.
Mm-hmm.
We're focusing on being aggressive with new product. And the reason for that is I don't necessarily need to buy something that's not any better than what I already have. But if I see something that does something better than what I already have, I'm more motivated to buy it, right?
Yeah.
So if my money's tight, I'm going to buy on a need more than a want.
Sure.
So we know that if the economy thing is going to be a challenge for the next 2 or 3 years, it's really important to deliver not just necessarily new colors or anything like that, but new product.
Yeah.
So that long range plan is really revolving heavily around delivering new technology and new product ideas that maybe we've had for a while, but we didn't have necessarily the resources to put them together. COVID threw a wrench in a lot of development.
Yeah.
And resources. So we're getting caught back up from some of the COVID difficulties, and now that allows us to we've invested in the infrastructure. You've seen some of the construction we're doing and things like that, bringing on more staff, and that's all really part of that's geared around continuing this growth curve that we've had through a potentially rough economy. So I would say that's the next 2 to 3 years, at least until we get through the next presidential election, and who knows what will happen. But
Yeah.
as far as a 5-year plan, I'm really confident the leadership team has put together a really good product offering. They're investing in the staff. I feel like we've got a lot of positive things to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of a long answer, but I feel like in 5 years you'll see this building be bigger.
Yep.
There's going to be more people in it. We're going to have more SKUs. May not have that many more dealers because we're really happy with our dealer network, and they're growing too. And as long as they continue to grow and make sure that product is getting in the consumer's hands, we don't necessarily need to add dealers.
Yeah.
May add a few here and there if we've got some holes, but next 5 years is honestly, even the economy aside, is looking good.
Yeah.
So
Good.
there's still a lot of opportunity in the snow and motorcycle industry.
yeah.
People ask, oh, you're going to branch out, you're going to get hunt, fish, blah, blah. You know what? We still have white space in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just
There's
took
still
the question right
some
out of my mouth. I was just curious about that. If they were interested in expanding, or if they're, like you said, you pretty much got your hands pretty well tied with everything here.
I mean,
Yeah,
sounds
we
like going
talk about
deeper
it.
more than going
Yeah.
wide.
Yeah, so that's the key right there. And okay, let's put our business hats on for a minute. I'm not going to claim to be, all business experienced. But
Sure.
I've been fortunate enough to have some pretty cool conversations with the leadership team here. You branch out into another category, and I'm not saying we're not going to do it, but you're talking a brand new distribution network, new dealers, new culture. You're building new relationships. That takes time and it's expensive, right? But for me to go try, or for us to go try to find a new sale to a new snow machine customer or new off-road customer, like they're already going in that dealership. Yeah. That advertising, that marketing is already set there. So it's not
Huge foundation already in place.
right. And so from a business perspective, as long as we've got opportunity for growth within the categories that we're already in, I feel like we're just going to continue to push that as hard as we can.
Yeah.
And not try to develop a
yourself
whole
out too
new
much.
category that's going to be really hard to get into, especially one that's already super competitive. You get in hunt, fish.
I was thinking like water sports possibly. Like, Klim's working on all this cool high-tech water type of stuff, I wasn't sure if it'd be like the next thing they go start competing against like Dakine or whatever, however you say that, different water materials or anything like that. I wasn't sure, they do pretty good in the motorcycle and all the snows.
Yeah, that could be an area we go down. I mean, I wouldn't get into details. It's just where we're going to go there. But what I will say is casual is going to be a big thing for us. We've not really focused on casual much. We've had some T-shirts and hats and a few things like that. But
Sure.
If you look at some of the progression of some of these other companies, we'll use Fox for an example. They got really big into casual. And Fox now is they're a casual brand. Like, in fact, they got to the point where it's like you go in the mall, you didn't have to go to a power sports dealer to get it. You went into the mall. Not saying that's the road we're going down. We value our dealers.
Yeah.
But we are going to offer more product for the dealers to sell. And one way to do that is more casual pieces. So we've just recently, in the last year and a half, hired like a casual team. We didn't have a casual team before. It was like, hey, this person that's a designer might design a T-shirt or something like that. We've actually separated and created an entire casual team now.
Okay.
And it's a 2.5 year process to get product to market.
Sure.
So you're going to see us, that's all going to come to fruition next season.
Okay.
I think there's like 118 new casual items in the works right now.
That's cool.
Something like that.
That's exciting.
Some of it's
could have some more SledSend and Klim team up.
Right? We need to do that for sure.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
That's exciting. So for me, like, obviously I am obsessed with all the Klim gear, but like because I am so in love with the gear on the sled, like I'm just as in love with the casual side because I get to rep that brand that I love and I care so much about.
It's a culture.
Even with having SledSend and having my own products and stuff too, like I still love repping the casual side of Klim as well. So that's really cool to know that you guys are pushing that as well. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I'm surprised how much work it's taken. I didn't know, I'm naive and I didn't really understand like the casual side of things.
Sure.
Like, because we're such a technical company.
Yeah.
But taking a technical message and putting that into a casual culture, we don't just want to make T-shirts. Like I want a performance T-shirt. I want something that's going to be more comfortable or better than like what I had before.
Sure.
Or what another company is offering. Yeah. And so the stuff's probably going to be on the higher end side, performance fabrics and things like that.
Okay.
Some Klim rideable blue jeans.
Oh my gosh.
Your guys' fabrics, huh?
I don't know.
We already have it.
Really?
It already exists.
Not the only one.
Yep. We have 3 or 4 different blue jeans for street riding.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting.
What about snowmobiling? Or like waterproof? Cool
Not-
Gore-Tex?
Not there.
Gore-Tex
No.
one, yes.
Nothing
Well,
that looks
I-
like blue
sweat
jeans.
stuff. That
not blue jeans, but I can't. There's so many names for the different. There are new snow, like a sweatpant that you guys released, but it's like puffy on the top, but then it's like joggers down. It's like a
Oh, the
different material on
Inferno jogger?
Yes.
Yeah.
I rock those, and I absolutely. So you say it perfect, like in the description of it, because like and I know that's why you wear the blue jeans and stuff, but like in between in the mornings and running into the gas station and whatnot, and you've got like maybe your base layer and then if you're wearing just like 1.0 leggings, then you need like some shorts or something to run into the gas station, and those pants, it's like in the description on how it kind of solves that. But then obviously the layering and the warmth and stuff. And I bought a pair of those, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, and I wear them all the time. Like that is my new base layer.
Well, 'cause they have
on my
pockets.
leggings. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
have you seen the transition pants?
I think I have a pair in the cart that I'm ordering for myself. I haven't.
So they're
I haven't
like
gotten
set
them yet.
up like a pair of jeans.
Yeah.
So, back pockets,
Yep.
side pockets,
Yep.
belt loops.
Yep.
But they're a synthetic fabric instead of a cotton. And so if it's not that cold out, I'll wear my base layer with my transitions over.
Okay.
And then,
and is it a sweat or
And it's-
is it a
no, it's
stretchy and stuff
It's
too?
a little
Yeah.
stretchy. Yeah,
Okay.
there's some spandex in it.
kind of more like a
polyester
jogger
spandex.
then, or more like a pant?
No, like it's a pant. Yep. So it's a wider bottom all the way over your boot.
Yeah. They're literally sitting in my cart. I just haven't ordered them yet.
They're so comfortable.
Yeah, they
And
look
they're,
it.
They're really durable. I get these shops, we get dealers, and their techs order them because they can kneel down in them all day.
Oh,
and all
okay.
right through 'em.
Yep.
So
Sure.
from a power sports perspective, they're super.
Is there
durable.
any here?
Yeah, we have them. Somebody's going to the showroom.
That was a rigged question.
Like, we need to pause
Let me
this.
just be, yeah.
Not just kidding.
Pause the recording.
Gotta
Jeff.
go
We got to make it run
Come
real
back
quick.
15 minutes after you're wearing
You come back,
pants.
dude. He wasn't kidding.
Yeah,
I sold
you
it
show
in
them
the
on the
middle of
YouTube
the
video.
podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the best way to do it sometimes.
Heck yeah, that's funny.
No, I just hear the pant talk, and then like you're saying, some of the new fabric, and I'm like, okay, maybe I could make a switch.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Well, and the idea is like, not everybody has the same style.
Yeah.
I might like something that.
And one of our biggest deals is like he's saying too, like a majority of my riding, which is sometimes good and bad, but a majority of
Careful.
it is with. Well, I'm just saying it's with like family members, friends with cabins.
More casual riding.
Well, you're just like we'll go up to a ski resort. We ride up to a ski resort. We're gonna be there for 4 hours. People are drinking their whatever they're drinking. Kids are eating all day long. We're just hanging out at the ski resort. It's pretty nice to have a casual just pair of jeans on. In your leisure, because I just rip my onesie off and boom, there it is.
Yeah.
Instead of sweats or something like that. I'm not much of a sweats guy, but I think jeans are pretty like appeasing or appealing looking.
We're gonna make it so that you don't want to wear jeans.
Well, that's what
anymore riding.
that's what he's like. Well,
Cotton
maybe
kills.
Well, he goes, maybe you should just try out like just do one ride when we go on one mountain ride without all those guys. Just try a complete climb layer setup. And I'm like, I've never even.
Well, the biggest
Thought
thing that
about
I
that.
think about, not only like the safety aspect of it, if you get them wet and cold and all that kind of stuff, but
I never thought about
a
that.
thing that I think of for you is like, when you're doing the hopovers and the bow ties and stuff, like the restriction in blue jeans versus the sweats and stuff. Like, how much would that change your riding style to be able to move better and not be so restricted?
Do you ever get
That's why
feedback
I
on
always
that much
push it
from-
on you.
Dangling around, hopping. 'cause
For mobility wise on our product, the fit and the mobility, we try to get a lot of feedback from all the athletes, ambassadors, consumers.
Yeah.
Not really on how it compares to blue jeans, because like
I have to say, I
you're
haven't-
actually the only person
I
I
was
know
go-
right now that wears blue jeans and rides.
I was just gonna say.
Did you hear what he just
Yeah,
said?
I was just about to say.
Okay.
I don't think I've never met a. Not saying I'm a top tier rider, but I've never met a top tier rider that I've like been like, hey, you wear blue jeans? I don't think I've.
So do you still have a flip phone? Just curious.
No, dude. Got that. Got that iPhone 14 Pro.
Right. No more riding in blue
That's
jeans.
my snowmobile. That's my snowmobile filmer right there.
There you
That's
go.
my content creator.
That's funny.
Well, in the video we talked about the science of comfort,
yeah.
and it was kind of funny to see your face like, oh crap,
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm not wearing that
it's a lot
anymore.
easier to argue with these guys, when we're just arguing like appeals and stuff like that. Because I'm like, yeah, dude, pull blue jeans off.
Well, the
pretty
best part was
but-
is you didn't want me to know you were wearing blue jeans. And he's like, you got to tell him what you wear.
Yeah. Well, any more
Put
that
your
I
business
find
in the
out about it,
streets.
I'm like, man, I feel like our little group has like I'm a farmer, so a lot of the times, I come straight out of feeding cows, and it's like we're scrambling to get up there and meet everybody anyways, and these guys are at the park waiting. And
All right, we got to get you a pair of transition pants.
we might have
Change your
to.
life.
I'm thinking.
So, okay, cool. So you've got a lot more expansion in the casual line coming. We'll see a lot more of that this next season, you think?
Yeah, we'll release, I think, a majority of it this fall,
Okay.
like around August.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about, let's get into some of the Gore-Tex stuff. Let's get into some of the science. But I want to kick it. I want to kick it off with, I want you to debunk a pretty common statement. It's been brought up earlier on the tour and stuff, to justify why Klim is the way that Klim is. And that statement being, we've all heard like people opting out of Klim because it's too expensive. Or that's, I don't, oh my, and people can say ill things or make any kind of comments, but just generalizing it like, oh, I'm gonna stay away from Klim because it's too expensive.
Sure.
And so like start to go into the Gore-Tex and some of these different products and the time and the materials and all the stuff that we, talked about on the tour, to express and explain and just, I don't know, like dumb it down to make people realize like, you guys aren't just making it that price so that you can just rip people off and make a ton of money, right? Like let's go into some of that.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to talk about that. We can talk about it from a science perspective, and we can also talk about it from a business perspective.
Let's do both.
So let's start with the science side, because that's what really drove the beginning of this company. There's a lot of things that contribute to cost, right? Actually, we're going to talk about it from the business side first, because it's easier to understand. So there's companies out there that are really good at marketing. They're heavily involved in marketing. They spend a good portion of their revenue on marketing dollars, right? Mm-hmm. And a very small amount of their expenses are to research and development, or developing product, right? Whether it's because they don't need to. We'll use snowmobile companies, for example. Maybe they're buying open molds, or they're buying product that's already patterned and they just have to color it up or whatever. Mm-hmm. They don't have a lot of investment into developing the technical side of that product. Therefore, a lot of their margin can be used into marketing, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So the flip side of that is probably more our model, our company model, which is we spend a significant amount of money on production, research and development, and we kind of want the product to speak for itself. I mean, don't get me wrong, we do marketing, but a good portion of our business comes from word of mouth, reputation, and some from marketing. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the baseline for understanding like where dollars are spent and how that turns into a retail price. But for us, knowing that we want our reputation to be, and this kind of comes back to the conversation we talked about earlier. I'm a writer. Mm-hmm. I don't want to write it if I know I can have something more comfortable and I'm going to have a better experience, well, I'm really hoping we develop it because I'm the one writing. Like, I ride all winter, I ride all summer. Yep. I race in the summer, I ride in the winter. Like, if we can make a product better, like, we're going to make the product better. Mm. So because our company has so many people like that involved, I mean, like, I think we said 80% of our people rides on some level. Yeah. We're always pushing to try to make it better. Well, there's cost associated with that. And so we know Gore-Tex, we talked about Gore-Tex being a huge partner of our company. Mm-hmm. They're a very high-end product. And there's some things that go into their product that add cost to the product. So we talked about their development center. They have several research centers, and us being a partner with them, having a Gore-Tex license, we have the opportunity to utilize those assets, those resources. They've got this rain room, and they can produce any type of weather in this rain room. So let's say we have a new garment that's an idea. Well, they have to certify it. We can't build it with Gore-Tex until they certify it. So we build a prototype, we send it to them, they take it in the rain room, they do all these tests, they throw wind at it, they throw rain at it, sideways rain, snow, freezing temperatures, whatever, and make sure it's not going to leak in a zipper, the seams are going to be okay, the vents are going to be okay, zipper garages, all that stuff, collars, like it's the moisture cannot get through it. It has to pass that test. On the motorcycle side, they even have a road motorcycle garment test that's even tougher for riding into rain at 80 miles an hour or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Does that have to do with that? What was the one certification you guys were talking about that you just
The AAA?
Yeah, the AAA.
Nope, that's a little different.
Different?
We'll come back and probably talk about that in a bit. But so Gore-Tex, they've got all this expensive scientific stuff, right? So there's a cost associated with that.
Right.
But then the actual Gore-Tex itself it's more expensive to make because of the procedures that they use, the tools, the specialty tools they have to use in the factory. There's some things there that none of the other laminate companies have really figured out. They've tried, but they can't because it's all very protected.
Yeah.
We talked about their factory, and how there's only 7 people
Seven
or whatever
scientists
allowed in there, and when we went in, they literally wouldn't let us pass the yellow line.
Yeah.
It was like a military compound. They protect that stuff really tight.
Yeah.
And so you've got that aspect of it, of just the ingredients that we're using, the higher end Thinsulate, the higher end Gore-Tex, the higher end YKK zippers. The zippers we use are just, like the highest level you can get is like a dive zipper, right? So we're like the level under that. We don't need a dive zipper, but we're going to get as good as we possibly can. Yeah. All of that stuff costs money. The development costs money. Then you go into the factories that we're using. We have to use Gore-Tex approved factories. They're a higher end factory.
Sure.
Gore-Tex itself is slow to sew a product. Everything is seam sealed. That process has to be done by hand. So that adds time. There's other laminates that don't have to be done by hand. And so you start looking at all these little details, and pretty soon you take a garment that might make, if they're not using Gore-Tex, they might be able to make that garment in 2.5 hours. Well, ours takes 7.
Got it.
Right? And so the materials were more expensive. The manufacturing's more expensive. The price has to go up. We still need to make margin.
Yes. Yep.
So the price has to go up. And, maybe I'll ask you, what was your impression of that question before you came here versus after I gave you the tour and showed you all the technology?
Right. Well, so, for me, I think that might almost be a better question for Kobe, because I've been so sold on Klim for so many years that the price, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant or cocky by any means, but the price for Klim never really, I respect the fact of the cost, and it's not cheap, but it's never really driven me away from it, because I've always felt, just from the outside looking in, that Klim was elite. It was the top level. It was always perceived that way in videos and marketing, in any kind of information online that I could find. For the last 5 or 6 years, I've always felt and been under that impression. And so because of that, and my experience in the backcountry using the product, it justifies the price with no friction for me when it comes to pulling out the credit card. You know what I mean? But then once I came here, it just, not that I needed the reinforcement, but now I have all of this data and science and proof to back it up that holy crap. There's not that there was a doubt in my mind, but now there's absolutely no room for questions. But I would like to kick that over to you, Kobe, because you haven't been a diehard Klim.
Yeah, definitely not. So I guess what would be, shoot me a straight up question on that.
Just the impression of what you felt like the cost and the perception of how expensive Klim was before versus now that you've had a tour and kind of seen behind the scenes. So
what goes
how did
into
that
it
change your mindset? And
definitely changes my mindset on the product for sure, because I, like he said, coming in, not necessarily coming into it, I wasn't biased, but I was definitely I have always thought kind of in my life, I'm man, Klim's just the more expensive stuff, I'm I don't really know what it's all cracked up to be. It's just snow gear. You know, I'm like, as long as it keeps you warm, you know, that's what I always thought. And then now I'm like, looking back on my years, I'm like, gosh, dang, how many times I went back to the trailer and my boots are wringing wet, soaked through like the bottle do. I'm like, I bet I could have filled that thing halfway full, you know. My pant legs, jeans soaked all the way through, zippers through, you know, wet. And I'm just like, now I come and see your guys' product and I'm like, all right, this is not just for the, you know, the higher up guys. This is for somebody that's going to put something through the ultimate test, you know, and you guys test it. Yeah. And you guys even test it here. You got all kinds of different tests and things. You know, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, I think.
You don't need to get teary.
But
he's all choking up there.
I still think it's still very hard though. And like I know I have a lot of friends that watch the Sledcast, you know, and all this. It's still hard for, you know, kids when they see when they see the cheaper FXR, you know, and the colors. It's hard for a kid that's already struggling to pick up a sled with 2,000 miles on it, you know, that
go out and buy high
to go out and buy a $1,000 mono suit or a $600 mono suit and then a $500 helmet, you know, and when they're going to go, man, I'm just trying to get out there and have the time. But I think with a video like this and them watching it, I mean, maybe give those kids like a year or two. And then once they finally look into the science of it, like I did, if you're going to get serious about it, I don't know, you know, it's more than just looks and getting out there to me. Like you said, you're going to want to be comfortable. Yeah. And it's no fun when you're doing this day by day and you're uncomfortable and you're wet and you're.
Yeah, it's funny.
It takes it out of it.
You just made me think of something that's kind of funny. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say this because I'm gonna get somebody in trouble.
Say it.
We can always edit it out if you don't want it.
I get to go to snowshoot, you know, and be around all the OEM guys every year. Great guys. I love being there. I mean, they're all super professional. You know, and each OEM is kind of supposed to be wearing their OEM gear, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because I'll walk like by an engineer, and I won't say a brand, but it's not Polaris. Yeah. And he'll like point down at his boots and like wink at me, and he's got the Klim boots on, and the logo's got black magic marker across it, you know, and he's like gives me the thumb up and keeps walking, you know, like
that's funny.
You know, like I'm not gonna say thanks, but I want you to know I really appreciate it. You guys have good boots.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, or he'll like, you know, we'll be out on a ride and he'll be like, like put his OEM gloves away and pull out his Klim gloves, you know, and like ride the rest of the day with the Klim. Just stuff like that. That's funny, kind of like.
Be commercial and everybody takes off and he's putting his ohms back in, pulling out the Klims and throwing them on really quick.
And I mean, it makes me giggle because competition's good.
Yep.
And the fact that OEMs are making gear is good and there's brand loyalty there and there is some really good OEM gear. It's just funny. Like, you know, it's just kind of like, it kind of makes you feel good. Like, all right, he went out of his way to show me he's wearing Klim boots, you know, and he's not really supposed to be, but that's, you know what I mean? And so that kind of reinforces, you know, that there's a good reputation there and that the hard work pays off and that those extra, you know, the expensive materials that we're putting into the product, you know, it is making a difference.
Yeah.
So I think the tour video will kind of answer that question better.
Yeah, sure.
Once you guys get that out,
yep.
Like you'll see the science of all that stuff and the ingredients and how we talk to Evan and how we, I think that'll kind of help answer that too.
Yeah,
absolutely. As a pessimistic sled clothing guy, you watch those videos, you'll see my raw reaction. I was pretty impressed today.
Funny, yeah.
I was pretty impressed today, seriously, and that's I don't know if you guys get too many guys that, you know, come in here like me that aren't totally for Klim, but coming out of here, I think I'm pretty well for Klim.
Yeah, I don't know that we really do. I mean, it is funny though when we do the magic show. You know, we call it the magic show. Like how many people they pull their hand out of the bucket while they're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're like, "How did you do that?" I didn't do anything.
That's a ShamWow commercial here.
Yeah, right.
Abortion or something going on.
What was the guy that was the king of infomercials? We
Exactly.
Do that, but it's been fun to be able to see behind the scenes and see how much work goes into stuff.
So have you always been Klim then, or were you?
No.
Did you?
No.
Like back when you were at SOP, were you climbing or were you?
You know, I was fortunate to start wearing Klim pretty early in Klim's business days. Mm-hmm. But no, I wore whatever I could afford in the beginning.
Yeah, sure.
Snow Rider gear. Randy, the guys at Snow Rider were just down the street from SLP actually. the owners of the company in their warehouse. And they treated us pretty good. So we had snow rider gear for a long time, and they were nice people, but it was entry-level gear.
Yeah.
Right? You get wet. And then I had some Rima gear, which was Gore-Tex, and I bought it used. And that was when I kind of really started to appreciate high-end gear.
Sure.
And then, believe it or not, Arctic Cat had a Gore-Tex license for a while. And I would say at the time, it was probably about the time Klim was, just before Klim. I think Cat lost their, don't quote me on this, but I think Cat lost their license and we got ours right after that.
Okay.
But they had some nice stuff. You know, if it's going to pass a Gore-Tex test, it's got to be good stuff.
Yeah.
So Arctic Cat had some really nice OEM gear. Polaris, for a very short time, I know, also had a Gore-Tex license.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know my dad. He used to be a Polaris dealer back over in Oregon, but he had stuff that he held on to from like the late '90s, early 2000s, or whenever that was. He goes, God, you just can't find this stuff no more. Polaris stopped making it. Man, this used to be the best stuff because it's got the Gore-Tex in it.
Yeah. And I don't know all the storyline there and why they didn't have it,
Right.
but eventually they were only going to allow one power sports company to have a Gore-Tex license.
Sure.
But I used to wear, I wore, 5 or 6 or 7 different brands before I built my relationship with Klim, started wearing their gear before I worked here. And then I was pretty much mostly Klim. My magazine stuff, I wore a lot of gear. Because we would do evaluations on gear for our advertisers.
Sure.
And the OEMs gave us gear to wear. So I've wore quite a bit of Skidoo gear, and there's been some pretty quality stuff there. The OEMs don't give us as much gear anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Are they?
And I don't know if that's because I work for Klim or just because it's like it's not that big a deal anymore. But I actually gave the guys at Skidoo a hard time like 2 years ago, and I'm like, dude, I would love to have some Skidoo gear. Just because, I like, Skidoo as a company, I have a Skidoo sled, I ride it, I like it. Like, it'd be cool to have some Skidoo gear, some casual stuff.
Sure.
And the rep actually last year, he gave me full Lynx. Like, I got a Lynx hoodie and some hats and stuff like that. I was like, finally, I finally got some, some stuff that's, and I'm always going to, wear my Klim stuff.
Yeah.
But I can wear other things too, it's like,
Right.
So it was kind of fun to get some other brand stuff.
Yep.
With all the growth of like Klim and I don't know too much how 509's growing. I imagine they're growing, if they're getting athletes and stuff. Are the Ohm people, like, how are they taking a defect off of all their gear because of Klim taking off so much, or do they not really care about that? They just
The who is
just like the Ohm
OEM.
OEM, or whatever.
Oh, the OEM.
Ohm. I call it Ohm.
I don't know. That's
You know what
a
I
good
mean?
question. I think
Because it'd basically be like, because before there was no really Klim and 509, was there? It's basically OEM.
Well, before there were some
Snow gear
aftermarket
or-
brands. You've had Castle X for a long time. There's been some other
or Fox
aftermarket
back in the day
companies.
or what.
Rima was a big company back in the day. So the industry's changed, and some companies have gone away, and other companies have developed.
Yeah.
I do think the game has changed for the OEMs, though. I don't think they don't put nearly as much emphasis on it as they used to, and those die-hard OEM loyal people have slowly faded away. I think. I have no data to back that up. This is just perception.
Sure.
But you remember back to the XLT days or the first Summit days, the Mountain Max days. Like, there was some hardcore OEM loyalists.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, it wouldn't have mattered how good Klim is. They're going to flip and wear their Yamaha SRX jacket.
Oh, yeah. We still got guys
You know
like
what
that.
I mean?
That was my
Like-
dad.
Yeah. And it's like trying to talk the farmer out of his Carhartt.
Yeah.
He's going to go snowmobiling in his Carhartt. You know,
Yeah.
it took us a long time to like kind of break that wall down.
Yeah.
So I don't think the OEMs, like, some of that OEM loyalty is gone. And there's a bit of a changing of the generation there. And as those good old boys have kind of like stopped riding, or like some of the newer, younger riders are kind of like, I don't come from the good old race days or whatever, like where I followed racing big time. I just want to go ride my snowmobile, and this dealer happens to sell Skidoo, and so I'm going to go in and buy a new Skidoo, but you know what? Next year I might buy a Polaris, and so I don't want to look like an Arctic Cat advertisement. I'm just going to go buy a Klim or a 509 or whatever. And so the OEMs, my gut feeling tells me they've kind of seen that transition a little bit. Mm-hmm. And while they do have branded gear, it's not as important as it used to be, and they don't put as much emphasis on it as they used to be. Yeah, I think.
I feel like it'd be pretty hard, like you were just saying, though, because you got the older, usually is your older guys, with that sled that they've stuck with. Well, normally you've got that guy with that sled, with that jacket, same setup, last 10 years it's worked. I don't need to buy a new one. Whereas you got these kids, and social media, younger, Klim comes out, their new product, boom, it's up. It's like the new iPhone, or the new shoes. They're going to go out every year and they're going to try to tackle and get that instead of, oh, my last one has worked for the last 3 years, I'm just going to go with that one too. So I just figured that I wasn't sure if the OEM was like, maybe we should collab more with, you guys, if they try to collab it, or if they're just going to kind of slowly let their own little deal
that's
deteriorate.
Actually has happened. Yeah. And
if you can't beat them, join them.
Well, Polaris bought us. But here's the cool thing. Okay, I want to sell to a Cat dealer. I want to sell to a Skidoo dealer. I want to sell to a Yamaha dealer. So if Polaris says, okay, we bought you now, we want Polaris and everything, is the Cat guy going to buy that? All you did is turn this into a branded gear.
You just singled yourself out.
Right, right. Yep. And so they were smart enough to be like, okay, these guys need to be independent. We're the bank.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, we bought a business to make money.
Yeah.
It's a snowmobile business, and we understand the snowmobile business, but these guys, like, we have our own distribution, our own dealers, our own, the accountants talk to their accountants. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it.
You guys cater to all of the different brands.
Yeah, we have
one specific.
Amazing Skidoo dealers, amazing, we have everything out there. You get on the motorcycle side, we got Harley dealers selling our stuff. Those are like the hardest doors to open.
Yeah.
So the independence is important for us. And we have actually had other OEMs come talk to us. I won't say who.
Sure.
But you never know. You could see a collaboration in the future. Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely some possibilities to that.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And like you said too, a Polaris kind of bought it out, and then you got, however, all those different companies you were saying, all of them kind of work together. Wasn't sure if everybody kind of all focus around Klim, and all put their marbles in a basket, or would that singled out too much, you think, and not have as much competition as you'd like?
Well, I think if it's done right, it would promote growth. The key there is Gore-Tex, I think. The material we do have some materials nobody else can get. So they know if they want to be at that level, they kind of got to talk to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Sure. I want to step away a little bit from product, and I want to kind of talk about your role when it comes to like the ambassador program. Mm-hmm. So like what it looks like because those are kind of two separate things, right? Like you have the traditional Klim ambassador, but then you also have like the race team. Am I correct? Right? Like those are two kind of separate,
in a way,
deals. Mm-hmm. Okay. So kind of go into, your role and what you have your fingers in within those two things, what that kind of looks like.
Yeah. So, where to start there? All of the sponsorship falls under my title.
Okay.
For the snow side. For a while, I was actually in charge of both the motorcycle and the snow side.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. And we have another guy in the company who knows the motorcycle side of things really well. And I had, I would say, more experience, knowledge on the snow side. I've come up through the dirt side. I've raced motocross and off-road and even been involved in the media side of dirt. So it's not like it's unfamiliar to me. Mm-hmm. But Mark knew the dirt side and especially the big bike side better than I did. He had more relationships, maybe is a better way to put it.
Okay.
So we separated it back a little over a year ago. And I've focused more just on the snow side. I do have a few crossover athletes like Keith Curtis he's got a Sherco contract.
Yeah.
There's a few dirt guys I still work with that are, they cross over. They're primarily snow. But really, there's kind of 3 levels, right? There's like an ambassador and or a little bit of a race support.
Okay.
They kind of fit in the same category, even though one's racing and one's more like influencer based.
Yeah.
They're a discount type program.
Okay.
And that's the majority. Honestly, that's the majority of a lot of the people we work with.
Got it. Okay.
There's someone who has a little bit of a following, whether it's on a dealer level, local level with a club. They have an influence in some people's purchases, and or they help us with feedback. Somebody could be getting an ambassador level or a VIP deal simply because they're really good at testing and they help us with product, right? They don't necessarily have to be this crazy influencer.
Yeah.
So there's different reasons why we choose to partner up with those consumers. Then the next level above that ambassador program or race support program is a little bit of sponsored product. And then additionally, they would have a discount.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of those. And then there's a full-on sponsored athlete.
Okay.
So there's kind of 3 levels there.
Understood.
But I would say the majority of it is that ambassador / race support level. And it's mainly, a lot of it has to do with feedback.
Okay.
Getting feedback from different riders in different areas, working with people, understanding what their clubs are like, their dealers are like, kind of, boots on the ground, and social media has changed, though that whole thing's changed a lot with social media in the last 6 or 7 years.
Big time. Yeah.
Because before it's like if you didn't have a contact with a race team or a media outlet, you weren't an influencer.
Yeah.
You might be like the cool guy in the club.
Sure.
But it was really hard to position yourself as an influencer unless you had a racing background or you were just donating a ton of time to a club or something like that. Now, you could maybe not know anybody in a club. You could maybe not race, have nothing to do with your dealer, and have 10,000 followers.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're good at editing and getting content. So the game has really changed.
Yeah.
And so when we look for ambassadors, we're looking for, several different things. One, how they represent themselves. That's probably first and foremost. I need someone who's respectable, who has integrity.
Kobe, you're out then. Sorry.
So, yeah, thanks for coming. Jeans just don't work for us.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right.
Sorry to ruin your chain of thought there and interrupt you, but I couldn't help myself.
Him to be the punching bag. Like, I thought he was a co-host.
They did.
Is this the way it
you guys
goes?
Forget about that airplane ride that you guys were going to get. They forget about their connections over here they're losing.
Yeah.
So, we want to make sure that we're partnering with somebody who is going to represent themselves the way we want to be represented.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It really is about them, right? After that, it's, well, what kind of influence do you have? Are you what group are you influencing? How are you influencing them? We want to spread that out amongst all the categories of product that we sell, right? We've got some East Coast stuff, Midwest stuff, mountain stuff, casual line, racing. And so if we're deficient in an area, like we feel like we need to focus more, like I'm probably going to lean more towards trying to get more ambassadors on that side or, in that category. I think most people know that our strength in the past has been the mountain side of things. We're more known in the mountain area.
Yeah.
But so maybe the opportunity to grow is, through the Midwest and the East, just as an example.
Sure.
But I feel like my predecessors developed a really good team. And when I took over, we had the foundation was just like, it made my job a lot easier, right? Like kind of maintain what they built, hopefully progress it into whatever the new technologies are going to be, or wherever media type goes.
Yeah.
But I mean, does that answer your question? I guess.
Yeah. So then on the backside of that, from a work standpoint, right? Like how much of your day is dedicated to managing and talking to those ambassadors and athletes? And so a lot.
Most of my time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and I get this feedback all the time. Like, well, I was sponsored by this company, but I just didn't feel like I was part of anything.
Sure.
I was a number. I was an email, right? I mean, I hear that all the time.
Really?
And
Okay.
a lot of the people we get coming to us wanting to make a change, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to just be like, oh, you want to change? Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
But what's probably one of the most important things to me, and in a way it's also a downfall, I want a personal relationship with a lot of our partners. I want them to feel like they're part of the team because they are part of the team.
Yeah.
Right? And so I kind of give my cell phone out
Yeah.
to a lot of people.
Yeah. You were quick to give it to me when we were in that email thread.
You can ask my wife. It's glued to my head.
Yeah. Sure.
Like I get out of a meeting, and if I got to drive someplace, it's like on the phone from the minute I leave to the minute I get there.
Yeah, sure.
And I might be calling customer service and saying, can you place this order? Can you do this? Yada, yada. Okay, now I'm back in a meeting. So, I mean, if you look at my talk time, it's a lot.
Got it.
But I feel like that's important. I mean, I need to know my ambassadors, our ambassadors, right? I need my ear to the ground.
Sure.
And so...
Well, that all of that data that you're collecting plays a big role in your influence within Klim and next steps and moving forward, and
right.
So
and it's not. I mean, it's not just me. I mean, this is you met the team.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got our product line managers. They're talking to some of the athletes. They need to be talking to some of the athletes. Right.
Yeah.
They need to be getting feedback from some of our developers or some of our diners. That's the reason we brought Mason to help. Mason is a racer. He's a backcountry guy. He knows what it takes to do all that stuff. He understands the technical side of things. So for him to run that testing program, he doesn't. I mean, he kind of works for us, but it's a part-time gig, and
sure.
I want some of our. I mean, I got Polaris racers testing stuff with Mason.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the whole team needs to have a relationship with the ambassadors and the racers.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Sure.
Right? I might be their main contact.
Right.
But if they need to work with, Brittany at the front counter or whoever, they feel like they walk in and they're part of something.
Yeah.
And
totally.
it's not just because we're pretending, like they're important to us.
Yeah.
We can't learn everything we need to learn without them.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
For sure.
And so it's just a part of the process.
Yeah. Right.
Question I got for some of the listeners, younger ones, I guess, necessarily upcoming sledders and stuff. What's the best route for somebody, as a young kid, he's watching this, he's watching some of your other riders, sponsored riders, and he's down there looking up going, there's no way I can get there. I don't race. I don't, what would you say first things first to get connected into something like this would be for a kid?
So you just described me,
even if
you
it's
just
not
described to me at 8 or 10, like back to my story, like that was who I was
on the ceiling
right?
and everything.
Yeah, like man, that'll never happen to me. But man, how cool would it be if I ever could?
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you from firsthand experience, I didn't know what I was doing. I just pestered people until I got a job. Well, it's no different now. Yeah. Like, do your homework, put the effort into it. Understand social media, or understand, if you don't, there's things you can do to build relationships. I mean, we're still a kind of a relationship-based business.
Yep.
But as important as what you do is what you don't do.
Yeah.
You got to be respectful. You got to have integrity. We don't like brand bashing. We don't like negative. We don't like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I respect a lot of my competitive companies. They drive us to do better. We drive them to do better. They elevate, rising tide raises all ships, right?
Yep.
Like, if Skidoo's selling more sleds, sweet. That's more buyers in the market, right? So we don't put up with negativity, brand bashing.
Yeah.
we just want grassroots, organic, original, honest. That's what we're looking for. Right? So they start with that foundation.
Yeah.
And then they figure out how to influence people. How do they become someone that can influence a buyer?
Yeah. Yeah. Part of the vision thing, I'll say just one piece for me. Like I had probably like 50 Klim stickers on the back of a Yeti cooler before I was ever sponsored by
That was the wallpaper?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So it's just like, it's, one of those things too of like the posters that you had, right? Like I was so obsessed with Klim and repped all their gear and pushed and everything before I ever even applied to, to hopefully one day be in the position that I'm in now with you guys. And so that's part of it too, like having that drive and having that vision and working towards that and doing the right thing, like you just mentioned, all the way up to it. So
I also want to add too, I said the things you don't do, you don't expect anything.
Right.
I'll
Zero
have people,
expectations.
This entitlement thing is such a turnoff. And I get it, and it's just like, please tell me you understand how you just came across. And I get it. Sometimes people don't.
Sure.
But that just doesn't, it's not impressive.
Yeah, no. Nobody cares.
And that happens way more than you would think.
Really?
Yeah.
Even in the snowmobile specific? Really? Yeah. Interesting.
And so it's just like, I'm not motivated to talk to that person.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, you think I owe you something or you act like you've done all this stuff. Well, I mean, then give me a proposal. Or, give me something professional to show me why you're expecting this type thing.
Not what can I do for you? It's what can you do for I.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's the way that I look at it, and I've said this on episodes before, and I really had a lot of conversations at Heydays around this of, because you have a lot of, I don't want to say necessarily kids, but younger generation in the space that are hitting up these companies like, hey, what can I have for free? And I've always kind of approached it in the manner of like, of equal value exchange.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
So if you're going to give me X, what can I do from my standpoint? And so like, I am obviously super fortunate to have the team and the cameras and the podcast and the platform and all that kind of stuff to be able to leverage that in extreme, like an exchange. And that's how, going off of like giving those kids that you're talking about some advice on things that they can do is like, again, how can you come up with a way for a mutual exchange, right? And so like, I've even had people ask me for, a free sweatshirt. And like, in some instances, like it's fine depending on what the exchange is, right? But, like if it's a family member that just wants a free hoodie or whatever, well, like, dude, I'm building.
Hook me up, man.
Yeah, I'm building a business. Like, this costs me money.
We were friends before this ever even started. Don't you remember?
Yeah,
It's like, I don't really remember.
The best part about it is your winter friends.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's a thing. That is such a
I don't
thing.
even have to describe it, and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like,
horrible.
Haven't talked to you since high school, but it's fall, and now I need a part.
It's like you wouldn't even show up to my birthday party, and now you're trying to be my best friend at my cabin.
Like, dude, you remember how you used to treat me?
You want
to now all of a sudden you got my phone number?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a few stories like that out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that mutual value exchange is how I always try to approach, whether it's Klim or Bikeman or whoever it may be. Like, what can I do? And almost like kind of under promise and over deliver, right? Like go beyond.
Give you more value than I'm I'm asking for. Yeah, no, you're dead on.
Because the big thing for me too is that like by playing that, I'm not necessarily playing checkers, I'm playing chess. Like, so take you, for example, and Klim, what can I do right now in exchange that is going to benefit you and I both 2-3 years, 2-3 seasons from now?
Drive 13 hours to come here and hang out for a day and get to know us and understand the company and then talk about it in a podcast. Yeah. Well, that takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Now you're going to drive whatever back
tonight when we're all done.
On little sleep.
Yeah.
Well, that tells me a lot. Like that's effort. Yeah. That's a lot of effort, right?
I'm on 20 some hours getting here.
Yeah, so Sunday he drove 11 hours from Sacramento. and then hopped in the car yesterday.
I slept about.
Dude, I better give you a
like
pair of transition pants.
6 hours. Yeah.
He's
Nah, I kind of feel bad for giving
slept
you a hard
6
time.
hours, and they drugged me out here, and then
11 hours there and 8
wasn't-
hours here.
I wasn't missing this one though. And that's exactly like my question I just had. I never thought I'd be touring a Climb HQ, you know, and talking to one of the big wigs here. I never thought.
Not a big wig.
You definitely are. Definitely are.
Motorhead.
Okay. Well, we can leave it at that.
can't drink.
But I mean, just like what we were talking, the motorsport pictures and stuff laying in my bed. I'm like, dude, you know how cool that'd be to check out something like that? And he told me about it, and I'm like, 20 hours, let's do it. I'm bombing it straight.
That's awesome. I love it. It's fun to hear people are that excited.
Yeah.
Like that is rewarding for me.
Yeah, and then the whole way up here, we're giggling, and I can't wait, dude. I can't wait. The whole walking through, I got my head down because I didn't want to see anything until I could see it all. You know.
That's true. You were like,
This is
when
like,
you said that, I thought you were kidding, and I'm like,
No,
he's serious.
he was serious.
He does not want to see it.
I love.
He
Yeah,
wants
I
a genuine
love
initial
this
reaction.
Stuff. I love this stuff. It's like being in like this is the type of shopping that I like to do. Keep me away from any mall or grocery store and put me in a warehouse or something like this. I could be lost all day.
Power sports dealership shopping. I'm the same way.
Never need to
Be
leave.
touching the throttles the whole time, even though it's off. I still
And
like to mess with it.
I've worked in this industry for over 25 years. Every time I go to a dealership, I'm sure like, well, I gotta have that. It's like my local
something that's gonna
dealership.
go away.
I'm like, dude, when did you get that? I gotta have one of those.
Yeah.
Well, my 16-year-old needs. I gotta have 2 of those.
Yeah, let's just do 2.
Right.
Yeah.
I still do that.
It is. It's
That'll never go
it's just
away.
it's just an urge, man. I think that's part of the fun. That's part of like snowmobiling. You know, we can continue to be kids. Through it. You know.
The hard part's if it's a competitive part and you still want to have it.
Yeah.
Man, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I really want that, but it says this on it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna buy it anyway.
Black Sharpie.
Right.
Black Sharpie.
Right.
100%. Yeah. How are we doing on time, Jeff? Do we need to break away and start a part 2? Change topics and everything, or really?
We've been chatting for
That's
a
the
while.
longest episode ever.
Really?
Yeah. Before this was like 55 minutes, I think.
On the protect, living life with no regrets. I can't designer when I get dressed. Summertime on winter fresh. I put her legs behind her head. Night she gone to bed. Bye bye. Every day it's a new test. I just keep chasing these chicks.